Hello and welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally, the show that both looks at the finances of the music industry while also bringing you stories and comments about the past week in the pop business. Plus, this week, ahead of Record Store Day this coming Saturday, we'll also be chatting to Ashli Todd from the legendary Spillers record shop in Cardiff about, well, not just the big day, but also the reality of running a record shop in 2026. Before that, though, let's start as we always do with a financial fact you can amaze your friends or colleagues with. It's Stuart's big number for this week. Which is, Stuart?
I'm going to put on my Dr. Evil face, if not voice. It's $1 billion.
It's $1 billion of what?
$1 billion. It's how much money Latin American music made for labels in the US last year, which is the first time music from Latin America has topped $1 billion in a single year.
Okay, that's pretty. That's a pretty good stat. What's behind this though? What's the story?
Yeah, well, this is about. I mean, it's partly about Bad Bunny, who had an enormous year. He was like the top streaming artist, but it's about other artists coming from Latin America. So, like, I think if you follow Karol G, the Colombian artist, but she played Coachella last weekend and was one of the biggest hits at the festival. And it's even about this thing I've been learning about called Musica Mexicana, which is very sort of traditional Mexican music, like trumpets and accordions and big story ballads. So very, very traditional folk music. But its top artists are huge in streaming and playing big venues too. So it's like a whole different bunch of different musics from across Latin America, which are all catching on in the US, and not just for people who are sort of Latinx descent. It's just kind of breaking out to all listeners there.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, do you remember when Bad Bunny was booked to play the Super Bowl this year?
Mm-hmm.
And there were kind of some protests from sort of right-wing MAGA type people were saying he doesn't even sing in English. He's headlining the Super Bowl. But what this stat shows, I think, is that his music and Latin American music more widely is having this really big moment in the US and not just for Spanish-speaking listeners. So yeah, $1 billion business.
A couple of other quick talking points. We should mention this. Obviously, the Wireless Festival, you will have seen in the headlines in the press, was cancelled last week after the headliner Ye, formerly Kanye West, was refused entry into the UK. This has been a difficult situation for everyone involved, I think, but for the promoters in the middle, who initially backed the artist and explained the reasons behind why they thought the gig should still go ahead. But then the Home Office withdrew the visa. I mean, aside from the debate over Ye's booking in the first place and where the different sides stand on that, where does this leave Festival Republic financially? Because I imagine there's it's a massive cleaning up exercise which everyone faces now, and I don't know where they stand contractually and where ticket holders stand either, particularly because they imagine will be out of pocket, at least probably to the tune of a booking fee. But start us up with Festival Republic. What's position do they find themselves in now?
Yeah, well, so it all depends. This is where I'm going to have to hedge our bets. It all depends on the terms of the contract with Ye himself. And it depends on their insurance policies too. And those are the two crucial things. So from the point of view of Ye, it's quite common, I think now, isn't it, for artists headlining a festival to be paid a decent chunk of their fee in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So will he have to pay that back? It's very unclear, and we don't know how much they paid him. I've been learning some legal terms this week. Can I try them out on you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been learning about force majeure, which
right.
You may, but it's kind of the contractual provision that if something unforeseen happens or uncontrollable events happen, it frees everyone from their obligations, which would mean that Festival Public wouldn't have to pay Ye. It's all kind of, it's like, wait, we couldn't control this thing. We couldn't see it coming. Now, there's been some lawyers discussing this going, well, surely they could see it coming when they booked Ye in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Did they not consider the fact the government might not let him in? So there's debate around whether that would apply in this case. But the other key thing, and this has come through, there's a good article in The Guardian, there's a good one on Billboard, that this was cancelled relatively early. It was quickly. So they wouldn't have started building the stage and the sets, for example, at the venue. They'd spent some money on marketing, but if it had been cancelled closer to the time, there would have been a lot more money gone down the plug hole.
Mm.
And the other thing people don't seem to know is there'll be contracts with security, with catering, all the kind of people. I mean, there was actually a report, I'm trying to think when it was, I think it was 2022. It was about 3 years ago, on the economic impact of the Wireless Festival. I think it generated, I think it was 28 million quid for the UK economy that year and employed around 2,400 people across all the things it do. So again, how much Festival Republic is in the hole depends on what contracts it's signed with all those companies and those providers. But the other thing I've been reading about, I've been on Insurance Business Magazine's website because I know how to live. Very respected publication. And it's talking about how the financial impact, not just for this year, but for other events going forward. And what it got into is this idea of the way event insurance works is you have these clauses that are like about artist-specific risk, which if you're getting insurance for your festival, it used to focus on things like illness and injury. So if the artist gets injured and can't perform, which we've seen, haven't we? Like I remember, was it one year, I think the V Festival, Travis couldn't perform because the drummer had a terrible accident and someone else stepped up. And obviously your insurance is probably more expensive if you've got a history of injuries or a history of stuff that might prevent this happening. But this article was saying now it might start working in behavioural and reputational risks. So you might have a clause carving out, well, what if the government doesn't let them in? What if they're part of criminal proceedings somewhere? What if they make public statements that could get them into trouble even? So I think that's the other thing that people are starting to about, well, okay, this year the Wireless Festival isn't happening, but next year when they and other events try and get insurance. And this is obviously about Ye, and that, like you said, there's a whole debate about what he's said and done in the past, and people think about that. But we've talked, haven't we, about like Bob Vylan, who Kneecap. This is something that could apply to a whole bunch of artists that if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't like what Ye did and said, but there may be artists who you do agree with who could kind of fall under this and find it more expensive to get insured. So yeah, that's a long book. The other thing I thought is, I was wondering why not just get another headliner. So that was my immediate reaction, was like, why not book someone else? And you can probably talk about this more than I can, but the general view and expertise is like, even though it's in July, finding one artist big enough to play all 3 nights who's free, or finding 3 different headliners.
I think
that was not possible.
That's exactly it. I mean, by this point, they're probably already looking at who's playing next year, because everyone's diaries are filled in so far in advance. Because a managers or management companies are, they're working 18 months, 2 years ahead. So it would be difficult, I think, unless someone was at home kicking their heels, to find someone with that pulling power to step in so late, even though it's early-ish. I know it's early for us. It's very late when it comes to booking headliners,
And also Wireless. I mean, one of the things they've done that's very bold is, like, last year they had Drake do all 3 nights, and that was a big deal. So that was what's happening. So that's the other thing. If you had like a bill of 3 headliners and supporting bills, and one of the headliners pulled out, maybe that is something where you can move someone up or do things. But when you've put all your eggs in one headliner's basket, it really does leave you with nowhere to go other than to cancel and say, right, well, back next year.
Talking actually, this is festival related in a way. Well, it relates to Coachella actually. But have you heard Radiohead are launching a new film and art installation? But if you do want to see it first, you'll have to go to a bunker underneath the Coachella festival. This could not be more Radiohead. This story. There's always a bunker involved with Radiohead. If you remember, we were talking about Radiohead's, like, all their treasure trove, all their old master tapes and stuff is all allegedly, folklore has it, in a bunker somewhere near Oxford. Now they've got a bunker beneath the Coachella festival.
Yeah, and everything I've heard about Coachella says that it's probably quite nice to disappear to a bunker sometimes during that, when the sun's kind of blasting down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this actually dates back to COVID times. And I don't know if this was on your radar at the time, but it was on my radar because I'm a nerd, that back in 2021, Epic Games, who are the people who make Fortnite, they said suddenly had this really surprising announcement, like, we're doing a virtual Radiohead exhibition called Kid Amnesia. And you had to use it on your console or PC, and you kind of wander around this virtual space full of films and artwork from the Kid A and the Amnesiac era of Radiohead, which is kind of a fascinating creative time. But what I didn't know until this month is it was supposed to be a physical exhibition. They were going to have a proper exhibition you could go to, but COVID nixed that, and now they're finally doing it. So yeah, it's a full-on audiovisual installation, is how it's described. It's got a film at the center of it, but it's other artwork too. Tom York said it's a narrative about, here's the quote, "A monster is trapped in a derelict museum of the lost and forgotten." So I think it sounds like a great family day out, really, doesn't it? Take the kids. But yeah, so it's happening in this bunker under Coachella. People who are going to, which was last weekend and next weekend, as we're talking, and you could register to go and see it. Then it's going to visit Brooklyn, Chicago, Mexico City, and San Francisco between May and February, May this year and February next year. So I'm kind of hoping it'll come to the UK, but at the moment it's US and Mexico City.
Right.
And here's the other thing. I mean, we could just kind of watch, see it on social media, but when you go in, they're going to stick a sticker over your camera phone. So you can't take video and photos in there.
Right.
Although there's a TikTok account and a Threads account and an Instagram account. So weirdly, that might be the way you get to see it on Radiohead's official TikTok presence, which is a phrase I've never thought I'd be saying.
Right then, it is time for the latest in our monthly series of interviews looking at various aspects of the music business in a little more depth. So last month, you might have heard Stuart talking to the band Picture Parlour about, the financial realities of being in a band these days. We also spoke earlier this year to Neve Byrne about artist management, and Ricky Bates at the venue The Joiners in Southampton regarding the struggles of grassroots venues in the UK. All of these, of course, still available on our feed. Today, though, to throw ahead to Record Store Day on Saturday, we wanted to find out a bit more about what it's like actually being on the front line of selling music and how hard it is currently trying to balance the books if you're running a record shop. To help us with this, we spoke to Ashli Todd, owner of Spillers Records in Cardiff. Ashli, hello, welcome to The Price of Music. How's your week going? Has the stock for Record Store Day started to arrive? We're recording this on Tuesday lunchtime. Is there a van outside with 100 boxes of vinyl already?
Well, I am very pleased to say that the vast majority of stock has arrived. In the main, that sort of happened last week.
Oh, right.
Because Easter is movable and Record Store Day isn't, where Easter falls affects sort of like shipping schedules. So on the downside, a lot of our invoices came through at the end of March, but because of where the Easter weekend was, the stock didn't then arrive till the very start of April. So the bills will be being paid sooner, but the stock is at least here.
It's there. Just before we get on to Record Store Day and running a record shop in general, how did you get into the business of running a record shop? And you should probably, as well, just in case there are still people who don't know anything about Spillers Records, tell us a bit about Spillers as well.
Okay, so it was not the plan for me to be here still after what will be 30 years this coming May. But that is sort of how it's all panned out. And essentially, Spillers Records is the oldest record shop in the world, famous for having continuously sold physical music since the year 1894. Just music, nothing else, physical music. Although we did used to do repairs of gramophones back in the day, I'll have you know. We predate the record going flat. Back in the day, it was wax cylinders. And we've moved a few times over the years, sort of like reflecting, trends in music buying. And how did I end up here? Well, my dad was running the shop and then bought it in the 70s. Again, it wasn't his plan to have Spillers for that amount of time. He was actually training to be a bank manager and also was a DJ of Northern Soul in his after hours world. And as a regular at the shop, he just happened to be in the right time at the right place, or the wrong time at the right place, and depending on how you look at it, and ended up managing the shop. Anecdotally, he turned up on his first day wearing a full suit, and trying to make a good impression, and was promptly told that was not necessary. But he obviously just wanted to put his best foot forward. And similarly, I was given, I made the mistake of asking for pocket money to go to the cinema in the spring half term of May 1996. And I was promptly told, well, if you want some cash, you have two choices. It's either go and clear the expletive out of the chicken shed, excrement, or come and help out in the shop. So I chose the marginally more glamorous option.
You've been there ever since.
And I've been stuck here ever since.
There's a real sliding doors moment there, isn't there? Like somewhere in another world, you're now a chicken mogul of some kind.
Yeah, well, the price of eggs these days, I mean,
I was going to ask you about the biggest changes you've seen over the last 10 years, but that's almost a bit unambitious given that it's 30 years. I mean, what have been the biggest things you've had to respond to in terms of what Spillers does? Because obviously been loads of disruptions and technologies coming in, but also like an exciting resurgence in physical music.
This is it. I think after this amount of time, it's a case of being able to take a bit of a pragmatic approach and realise that, within different concentric circles, no matter, how micro or macrocosm, things do go in cycles. And I guess sort of, we are, very proudly stockists of all physical formats. We've always sold vinyl. We've never stopped. And even with the growth of vinyl, which still gets talked about now like it's a new phenomenon, but I can tell you it is a 20 plus 2 decade worth of growth as far as I'm concerned. And even in a smaller scale, I've sort of seen CDs take a knock from that, and lots of signals from the industry imply that there isn't really a continued market for CDs in exactly the same way as they sort of treated vinyl 20 plus years ago, which, then fueled its, demise. It's almost like, just to bring the chickens back, it's a chicken and egg analogy. It's like, if you say something is on the rise, it will rise. If you say something's on the wane, inevitably that will sort of, follow. But yeah, even in the last 5 years, I've seen CD sales take a dip like that. But then with what I see as the growth, possibly fueled by the growth in vinyl prices, the ever increasing cost of vinyl, CDs seem to have, maintained quite a level price point. And I think the message about physical supporting bands and your local record shop with buying physical music, which the message is definitely getting through. It's really nice to see that, in the same way as I was drawn to vinyl in my teens because it was nostalgic from what my parents used to play, I am seeing lots of teenagers doing what I think is the same thing with CDs. It's retro.
I was reading a survey today actually about a Generation Alpha, which I think is for up to 14, 15, and how I think half of them are listening to physical music. It said, like, it's like you say, it's not again, like you were talking about the whole people talk about vinyl as new.
Yeah,
people often talk about, isn't it all older people still buying physical music? But it's not. It's really young people now. It
is. I mean, it's very heartening. It is really heartening. They engage with it. It's the whole process. The browsing process. It's lovely to see. It is.
I suppose that does that bring us to the makeup of the community that comes into the shop? And have you noticed any sort of changes in the sort of people, the demographic of people who come in to your shop? Because you must know there'll be regular faces. There'll be the person who's in Cardiff who pops in because it's a famous shop, but you probably get to see the same clientele. And I wondered if that's changed.
I mean, this is the thing. I think, the cost of physical music comes into this. So I think that does naturally fuel who we see more often. And it does tend to be, blokes of a certain age, perhaps, who's, retired, or, kids have left home and have a bit more disposable income. So I would be at pains to draw too many comparisons on sort of frequency, sort of like, a tally of how often. I'd say more consistently across the board, it is all ages, but, obviously different demographics have different budgets and different sort of volumes that they can buy, but it is across all ages. It is always lovely seeing but lots of the older customers, the more sort of middle-aged ones, do seem to take a great sense of pride in bringing the youth in, the next generation, and that's always lovely to see. It is something that is evident. Families in together, or dads with daughters, or grandparents with their grandchildren, and I think it's really broad. I think in terms of where we were 15 years ago, where I think, things were, I think it was more on a hope that things would turn. I don't think anyone really expected vinyl to keep on going in the way that it has. I mean, I am astonished constantly that there is still more room for growth in it. I really did think that what goes up invariably has to come down to some extent. But it's a bit like Record Store Day's a really good example of this. I mean, there. I'm the biggest cynic that you'll find, whilst also being very enthusiastic. But I do have a cynic sort of, based on experience of the industry. And I think there are people who came to maybe, say, the first 5 or 10 years of Record Store Day, have over time gotten somewhat jaded with the event. It's grown and grown. What was 100 titles is now 500 titles, which in and of itself looks could be read as a cash-in. You could see that as being trying to offer as broad a range of genres and titles to keep customers happy, but that's by the by. But every year it seems that there is a new audience. So, there are people who have kept on going and have been supporting it, for the nearly 20 years that it's been going on. But again, with that, a lot of that is through some of the more mainstream, as it were, artists that have gotten involved, and huge profile artists, Olivia Dean, Taylor Swift, the Wicked franchise, and you can't knock that for bringing a new audience in. And I think that's another thing, is those sorts of titles for that specific day has also given me more confidence in an area that I really don't feel like I'm very able to judge popularity. I often have to defer to the youngest person here and say, what is the young person's perspective on this? Is this cool?
You do. You sound like. So, would you have, going back 15 years? Was it more? Were you in a more precarious position? Do you think at that point? Do you feel running a shop now? Because I don't know. Because I always imagine I'd be so. One of the things which I think it would stop a person like me starting a record shop is just trying to balance the books at the end of the month and being at the mercy of the record industry, who decide to put a load of records out one month and then nothing the next month, or nothing good the next month. But in general, do you feel more stable now running the shop than you did maybe 15, 20 years ago?
Well, the thing is, Steve, is as you and I both know, the whole premise of the industry and bands and popularity and what's in and what's not, it's so fickle that quite honestly, no, because week to week, album to album, I mean, there are so many different things that can affect sales. I'm acceptant of it, and it's not. It's just a fact of the industry. Is, you can have an artist who's the hottest property for one album, but then it can be badly received, and then or you can have different factors that tie into it. So exclusives elsewhere, and D2C going on, or pre-order fan sale. Sign up for tickets and get the pre-order access or whatever. So there are so many variables, and that can impact an artist, and the reach. And the thing I would really say is, what you never know when you're ordering something. There are two principal things that is just, in a nutshell, the dichotomy of the wrangling that goes on with ordering is it going to be selling after week one? Because everything is so week one based, for that sort of chart position. So is it just going to fall off a cliff? Because things invariably do. More does than doesn't. And if it does take off and there is more more longevity in it, is there even going to be stock in the warehouse to reorder? Because sadly, quite often that is not the case, and that is the duality of physical music in 2026. Very few labels and willing to sit on large quantities of stock in warehouses. They don't know what's going to keep selling, what's going to have legs and run through till Christmas. And I think, I say through till Christmas, as we know, lots of things have a boost with sort of end of year polls and charts and whatnot. It's really exciting. I've sort of decided to be excited about seeing what is going to be the one that's still here in the racks 2 years later, rather than disheartened. And it is. I mean, I often wonder, are the same things that I've been ordering key stock staples this morning, and if it's okay to sort of name some names, I wonder what other record shops sort of like run-on ones are. I mean, Ezra Collective's albums still tick over like, with the disclaimer, these will all fall off a cliff as soon as I've uttered their name. I will never sell another record by these, just because that is the law of saying things out loud. But I'm talking about sort of more relatively contemporary artists. I mean, I'm not talking about sort of Cocteau Twins, Radiohead, Pulp and that. I'm talking more about the last 10 years sort of artists. So sorry,
that's Ezra Collective saying stop mentioning our name on that podcast.
I'm going to take the batteries out. So essentially, it's more I'm talking about the sort of like, bands from the last sort of 10, 15 years, when we all know that, sales are not what they were sort of 30, 40 years ago. Who is going to be our new Pink Floyd, for example? But, there are bands coming through that you don't really know if they're going to be in your acts in a couple of years' time, but for a very, very short amount of time, everybody wants to get their hands on it, and it's as I say, the drop off can be after the first week. It's you just don't know where the commitment is with people.
Just to finish off, can you settle an argument for us?
Important argument. Very important.
This has been an ongoing debate. Do you want to ask, Stuart?
If you're filing PJ Harvey on the shelves, does she go under P, under H, or if you want to do a curveball, a completely different letter just to throw things into chaos? But because do we disagree? I can't remember. I think I was P, but were you H or were you P?
I know. I think it's P, right? Although controversially, weirdly, when I had a look on the shelves upstairs earlier, my own collection, I think it's under H. Put us right.
Absolutely. Well, this is the thing. Like everything we've talked about, it's not as straightforward as it may seem. Yeah. So, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, PJ stands for Polly Jean, right?
Yeah.
Her birth given name, correct?
Yeah.
It's not a pseudonym, is it?
No.
She's Polly Jean Harvey. So in my head, that without any shadow of a doubt goes under H because that's her name. Where it gets more complicated is when you have your blues artists. I mean, Professor Longhair, Muddy Waters. I mean, he's not Muddy Waters, and that, I don't think that's his real name. And where it gets even more complicated is where you have an artist and band name, and also where you have a name that sounds like it would be a person, but it's actually a band. But I will be honest.
That's true. I hadn't thought about Tyler Ballgame. That's the name of the band. It's his name, but it's the name of the band.
Yeah.
Where does that go?
But then also you have some band names. I'm trying to think of some, but some band names that sound like they would be a person, but they're not a person, if you see what I mean.
So you might think they were if you were coming to buy,
Yeah, I can't think of any right now. So really, it's really difficult. But generally, I mean, if we said, for example, Bruce Springsteen, there's no way in the world that he would go anywhere other than S. Absolutely no, no way in the world, which ties in with Record Store Day because of formatting reasons on the list. Everything on Record Store Day that we have gets filed as per the list, which is by first, whatever comes first. So on Record Store Day, the rules are completely different in our filing process. So we have to have a mindset shift because people are used to the list being in the list order,
right? As
per the, printed out / look on the website / look in whatever publication you're looking at, and everything there would be alphabetical by first name. Robert Plant under our,
That's a minefield. Why make it more complicated?
If you're running to get like one of the two copies in the shop and you go to the wrong letter, you're going to be cross because someone else has gone to R before and you're on P.
Supermarket suite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it ever like that? How do you manage that idea of people? Because do you get that people running in trying to get the?
That is my biggest fear, and therefore we keep the stock behind the counter.
Okay.
Which is hence the filing process. But I could not think of anything worse than losing the last copy of something amongst all the records on. Can you imagine? Yes, the system says that we have one copy of Simply Red's remixes, but I cannot find it. That would that would be the worst thing in the world. By the same token, I'm afraid week in, week out, we have discussions over genres on where to put people. I mean, that causes all manner of kerfuffle. And actually, in terms of misconceptions, my other favourite unwritten misconception that people seem to have is that when they walk into and I do not think it would be exclusively our place, that everything would be where you would expect it to be. And that sort of thing of, do you have something? I've checked there, you haven't got any of that. Or is this all you have? Or is this all your stock? And that sort of not realising that we do our absolute very best to keep everything where we think it should be. However, as you have illustrated, we do not all think along the same. We don't all have a consistent agreement over filing, over genres. Your blues may be my, I don't know, swamp rock or whatever. And also, the second you open your door, anything can happen in terms of, has anybody been to Primark? I mean, I don't, or Marks and Spencer's at Christmas time. It's like that, isn't it? Anything can get left anywhere. And
I once went to Lakeside and saw the next sale on Boxing Day from the floor above. Just saw it top down view of everyone, and it was just the most frightening thing, other than being at the top of the Arc de Triomphe and seeing the cars going round that roundabout. The most frightening movement of humans I've ever seen.
Well, listen, we should wish you all the best for Saturday. I hope you've got your orders right. I hope you're virtually sold out of all your stock by the end of the day.
Would you like an exclusive look at the Simply Red 12-inch if I can find it within the next 30 seconds? Or am I being too silly?
No, go on.
Let me see if I can find it.
Well, this is going to be a good test. So Ashli's just walked out of shot. Now, if this will tell you whether Ashli knows exactly where everything is or not, or whether it's filed in the right place.
Is it filed under Hucknall?
So simply, so it would be S, given the rules for Record Store Day, which, by the way, can I just mention, there's a lot of live albums this year. There's an Air, Moon Safari live, Cortinas, like that seems to be one of the big things. There's the odd remix record. There's a lot of radio sessions this year. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the complete radio sessions. There's a Madness Sessions album. Sessions, because it's all about, there's a lot of sessions, a lot of demos and rarities, including A Bat for Lashes and one or two remixes, but the live album. And can I just say, wherever I tip up on Saturday, if anyone beats me to the last copy of The House of Love live at Ulu 1988, they're going to be in big trouble, because I was at that gig. Have you found it?
What I would like to say,
there it is. Looks lovely. I've changed my mind.
I will have you know that there is a Jar Wobble radio mix on here, which is Sly and Robbie featuring Simply Red of Night Nurse. So you've got Simply Red, Night Nurse, Jar Wobble, Sly and Robbie. That is going to be a banger. So,
as you told Steve,
yes, at the moment, just.
And that is what is the customer service that we have come to expect.
You didn't know you needed this, and now you want.
I like the cover's nice, because it's not. It's very much steering away from a big picture of Mick Hucknall.
Yeah, no picture of the Hucknall.
No, I didn't say that, no.
There you go. Sold. Thank you so much once again, Ashli, for spending some time. I know you're really busy this week, so to take an hour out of the day to talk to us was very kind of you.
Very nice to sit down for 5 minutes. Thank you.
So yes, thank you very much to Ashli for talking to us, and good luck if you are heading out on Saturday in search of collectibles. Record Store Day this coming Saturday. And if you'd like to hear more from Ashli, that interview in full will be available to our Patreon superfans. Talking of which, I must mention we should give a quick hello to new superfans, David Elmore and Sarah Wells. Thank you very much for joining the gang. Thanks for your support. You too can be a part of our super fan community. If you'd like some more details, you can go to patreon.com/thepriceofmusic, where you can sign up and become part of our weekly lock-in, which we do as a bonus extra every week. Patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Or if you have anything you'd like to share with us about the show, or questions around the music industry that you think we might be able to answer for you, do drop us a line. It's always nice to hear from you. The Price of Music Podcast at gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. Till next week. Cheerio.
Goodbye.